All right. Shelonda and Destiny, can you come on video? Great. Destiny and Shelonda. All right. This is all working. We're off to a great start for this week. And Destiny, you can come off mute if you're able to.
Oh, my bad.
Oh, great. Okay. I am so excited for this week's portion of Entrepreneurship Matters. Let me set us up, and then we're going to dive right into the conversation because this is a real treat for everybody who's here observing. So Entrepreneurship Matters is a conversation with a local up-and-coming entrepreneur and an established entrepreneur. And really, we know that entrepreneurship and businesses aren't built in a day. It takes undiluted passion, multiple failures, a lot of grit, and a long-term commitment to make it happen. What we wanted to do, and I always give credit to where credit is due. We at Johns Hopkins have an amazing anchor strategy work group. We have an amazing young person on there, Camry Moses, who came up with this concept for this webinar series to really allow for an amazing interplay between two great leaders in our community to hopefully inspire and spark someone else in our community. And so without further ado, you're going to realize why I'm so excited for today. And it's because we have two amazing women, Destiny Brown. I have gotten the promise from Destiny that she will hire me one day. She is a young entrepreneur, filmmaker, and actress born in Baltimore, Maryland. She is a national award-winning short film creator. She created a film called Save My School. She has worked as a producer, a teacher, an ambassador. She has created so many events. I'm not going to steal your thunder. And there's a lot of thunder when it comes to you, Destiny. She is a student, and she was a graduate of Baltimore School for the Arts, and she is now a sophomore at NYU in its Tisch School. She is so accomplished. I'm gonna give a couple of your scholarships because we're gonna talk about scholarships in a minute and what you've been able to achieve. She is a Bill and Melinda Gates Scholar, a Carson Scholar, a Coca-Cola Scholar, a Taco Bell Scholar, a Ron Brown Scholar, a College Bound Foundation Scholar, a Baltimore Ravens Scholar, a Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated Scholar, an Omega Psi Phi Scholar, and a Quest for Excellence Scholar. And there are more that I probably didn't name and I probably left off, but it is a pleasure to have you here, Destiny. And then we go to Shelonda Stokes, who in many ways needs no introduction. She is the newly appointed president of Downtown Partnership of Baltimore and CEO of the Downtown Management Authority. When I first met Shelonda was president and CEO of Graybo. She's the founder and will always be the founder of Graybo, a full-service marketing and entertainment agency. She is someone who is a trusted advisor to Fortune 100 CEOs, elected officials, other dignitaries. If you don't believe me, ask State Farm, Hewlett Packard, Under Armour, Smithsonian, Coca-Cola, Visit Baltimore, and so many more. She is an electrical engineer. We're going to get into that discussion because an engineer, a different type of problem solver, and now you're doing the other problems. Also been named as CEO on the Go. And she is just a proud Morgan State to serve on the Morgan State Board of Regents. Just pleased to have you here and to gain this discussion. So we're going to launch right into this discussion. And because we are already getting questions, I can tell an hour might not have been enough. So let's
questions. I get the easy questions.
You get the easy questions. Destiny gets the hard ones. I think that's right. That's right. No. So let me start with you, Shelonda, and then we'll go right to Destiny. Tell us about what inspired you to become a founder of Graybo. And your record speaks for itself. But talk about sort of where you started from, because many times, people get to see the glory and they don't get to know the story. And so I want to give you an opportunity to tell your story about entrepreneurship. How'd you get into it?
Yeah, no, and thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I think for what Johns Hopkins is doing across the board. Alicia, you and your team are amazing. So thank you for having us and for creating a platform to share the story. I think part of how I got here was not having some things like this and needing this. And so my journey, which probably could have been a lot shorter, took a little long ways. I started out. My degree is actually, as you mentioned, electrical engineering, which is different. People are like, how did you get here? But grew up in Baltimore City, couldn't love this city anymore. But people who are from here know that we have sort of our ebbs and flows of the city too. And so I grew up extremely poor in the sense that I watched my mother not eat. My father and his brothers, died from a heroin overdose or other drug related things. And so we were a family that was somewhat caught up in, the realities of what, can happen. And so one of the things in seeing that, Alicia, was I knew whatever career path I followed, it was going to be something where I could make sure my family could eat. Right. And so that was the essence of all of that. And so engineering was one of those fields to have a Black female left-handed engineer, would open some
You're like a unicorn.
Exactly. Right. And so and it proved true, right? So I'm an alum of Morgan State University, came out with 7 job offers literally in there because of that. Now, did the hard work and all of that other things, but had some amazing mentors that helped along the way. But from there went from company to company in the engineering space. And when you talk about how I actually, got here and sort of the serendipitous moment of it, while I was younger, my first job was cleaning, right? And I was cleaning in a harbor and I had to walk with the little squeegee thing in my pocket. So just look at where some of the things are now. So I knew that I wanted to do a career where I could give back, where I could do more. Go to a company, I'm elevating in these companies. I work for GE and Hewlett Packard and all of these. And unfortunately, during that time, I ended up experiencing racism before I fully even understood what that felt like, looked like, but felt like I hit even at that point a glass ceiling. And my business partner and my husband at the time were doing this company that we call like that, I said they had this fraternity going on. They were, up doing videos and movies and working with artists and music and all of that kind of stuff. And, I'm like, we need to operationalize it, because I'm coming from the corporate side of it. And literally, we went after our first client together, which turned out to be DBED, the Department of Business and Economic Development, which is now Department of Commerce. And to fast forward that story, they said, we love what you're doing. We love it. How much? And we're all looking at each other like, how much? I mean, we never had to,
I don't know.
And literally, picked a number that was what could sustain me for at least a half year salary. And they were like, what would it take for you to not go back to corporate America and to do this thing, full time? And fast forward 20 years later, right? Yeah. That was the essence and sort of how I got into that entrepreneurship thing. It came out of necessity, right? At that point in time, it came out of hitting that glass ceiling, which I think is so applicable to today as people are going through COVID and all of that, to really figure out how to pivot and shift when needed.
No, some really important points you talked about. Your foundational, right? One of these full circle moments. And we're going to talk to Destiny because Destiny's younger than us, but she has full circle moments. Even
he called me seasoned.
Yeah, I know. And the reality is, you talked about pivoting and turning really what was pain into a passion and a purpose.
Absolutely.
I'd love to turn it over to Destiny, because while you're young, you are wise, and no one should look down on your youth because you're fully utilizing it. Talk about your path into entrepreneurship and where you've been.
Sure. So once, as Ms. Shelonda said, please, thank you so much for inviting me to this event. It's been so incredibly fulfilling already. And also, as you mentioned, Johns Hopkins is amazing. CTY scholars, I have my little mug right here. Like,
yeah, she's a CTY. I knew I left one off. You're a CTY scholar. I forgot.
Been a rock for me from the beginning. So just so appreciative of the organization and just you individually. But event planning, interestingly, it's my most recent business venture, but it's been with me the longest because my mom actually had an event planning business before I was born, and I was actually the reason why it stopped. So she had it was Rising Event Tours, and then became Destinations Unknown to incorporate my name, but she would do surprise outings for people. And so that goes to say that from an early age, I always knew the importance of working for yourself, the benefit of making your work for you instead of somebody else. And that was always in the back of my mind. And one thing also is growing up with a single mom, it allowed her to spend time with me. It wasn't like I had to go to a babysitter, and that's something I always will see as something that set me on the right foot from the beginning, was that I had a mom who was able to be there with me and support me and take me to my acting camps and things like that. So even starting out when I was younger, I would sell handmade bracelets at the Ravens and the baseball games. And I was actually put into the Monday Morning Motivators as the youngest entrepreneur that they had put in an article. And I think I was about 5 or 6 years old, and giving business advice about how you have to make sure that you have a wide variety of bracelets, because if you have a little bit of inventory, people aren't going to want to buy from you. Just, like I was like 3 times my age. But the virtual event company, Indulgent Interludes, really grew or birthed out of the work that I do with Wide Angle Youth Media. When I went to school,
amazing nonprofit.
Yes, an incredible nonprofit. That amplifies youth voice through media arts education. And so I had started out as an actress turned apprentice turned teacher. It's really been an amazing path. That's a whole separate career that I learned for the past 3.5 years. But it was through getting reached out by them to do some virtual work because of the class of 2020 not getting a virtual prom, or not having a prom.
Hold on, you're gonna take me through the whole story.
Yeah. So they reached out to me, and they said we would love to have your expertise on building this event. And I kind of took it and ran with it. Stacy Ulrich, who's actually on the call today, I reached out to her and said, can we get them some Under Armour giveaways? And reached out to people. We got live performances, the DJ, really anything that we could to make it as interactive and as engaging as possible. And it was through that event that kind of like a light bulb sparked in my head that this is something people need right now. Some enjoyment. I saw people get up and dance and smile, and it kind of made me realize that a party isn't the club. You can actually really have it over Zoom and share that with people. And it was really amazing to me. We actually made it to CNN because it was such a great story that students all over the nation, I reached out to several of my scholarship networks, because a lot of scholars in some of the scholarships I had gotten into, they didn't have their yearly meetings. They didn't have that official, you guys made it in. And so this was kind of some type of recompense for that, and some way for them to still meet each other. And so there were students from all over different states that never would have been in the same room together. And so that was really something that made me realize that it was, I wanted to do this as a business because I had so much fun.
You know what you talk about, and I don't want to put a fine point, because I think people could have lost what you said you just did. And I think it's huge. So I'm going to put a highlighter on it. I have highlighters in my bag. So you produced a digital prom nationally during Zoom, which means you didn't have a long runway. That over the course of a few weeks to produce something like that, and created a company out of it. So let's pivot in that way. Let me start with Shelonda. We have folks who already are putting in questions. Take me step by step. So usually I like to do five point nuggets.
Okay.
What were the 5 steps that led you to start your business? Somebody's on here wanting to, and you're the first, and you two, Destiny and Shelonda, you are first entrepreneurs that are not a product-based business. So you're a service business.
Right.
So take folks through 5 steps, 5 big critical moments, 5 critical things that helped you to start your business.
Okay. Okay. So, I go back to sort of where I started. So, our first critical moment is you can have sort of a product or service and not really have a client base or have any of that. So the first thing for us was figuring out, who our target audience was going to be and who our client was going to be. I mentioned our first one in this case was, Department of Commerce. And it was, for the first thing, figuring out, the who. So for us, the who is going to be not only the Department of Commerce, but people who we thought could afford our price point, right? Because, you get into things and have some great products, but can't have people who can afford it. It defeats the purpose. Once we did that, I think we did ours a little bit backwards in that we also now had to figure out, okay, so how do we operationalize what our delivery mechanisms are going to be? So we have the client, our clients had expectations, right? They were used to being able to get information like this, have these tool sets. And so for us, then we had to step back and get the tools to be able to support, because you're right, with the service business, it's a lot different. A service business, what we recognize, and I'm gonna tell you some of our secret sauce has always been in the customer service spaces. And so for us, we feel like if a client has to ask you a question or has to ask you for something, you didn't do your job. And so for us, it was stepping back to figure out what do we need to do to be able to deliver in the way that we can. So that's the second part. I think the third thing for us in sort of going back, because I said we did ours a little bit backward, is now we had to get legal, right? As an entity when we first started. And, it was questions around what type of business should we be? Are we an S Corp? Are we an LLC? What are the protections that you should have? And so for us, it was going backwards to figure out which way could we do it. And when we first started, we didn't start out as a minority, get our minority certification. And part of the thought was, and this is where it's sort of pros and cons around what was cachet around being a Black business or not. And so we struggle with, do we want people to know that we're Black owned? Is there stigma associated or not? And how do we, but in working with Department of Commerce, they were like, if you want this money, you will get. And so we went through and ended up getting certified. So our third step was just making sure that our business sort of house and all of that part was in order. And so we did that. Going back, sort of our fourth step after we were legal and we did all of that kind of stuff, is it was now us focusing on the creativity and the delivery and the elements that we were going to have in there. And so for us early on, as I mentioned, for my husband and my business partner, they were in the music space. And so we were working at that point, they were working with artists, and everybody was trying to get artists placed on albums and working with all of that. And so for us, it was stepping back to say, that industry is saturated. We know it's a relationship kind of thing. Can we do something a little bit different that allows us to still make money and, create a platform for them? And so one of the things that we did in sort of understanding the market was, instead of taking those artists and trying to get them in records, is we stepped back to say, how do we put them in commercials, right? You still get royalties for commercials. It allowed us to do marketing. It met the needs of the client. And so it was really figuring out for the fourth step, how we put all of those things into play. And the fifth was, and I don't know that we've ever really mastered this piece, but I think it's one of the keys to success, is figuring out how you build then these repeatable solutions. I think the most successful companies, and that's why I think for products sometimes it's so easy, is you get into these processes and repeatable solutions so that now people can expect the same quality of service. I know if I go to Outback, what my filet is going to taste like. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right.
Come to expect. In service businesses, that's sometimes hard because you're customizing each thing. And so it gets harder to template. But as much as we could, we were trying to build off of those lessons so that we started to have repeatable solutions.
I mean, you just dropped gems, and I took notes. So I was taking notes. One, you talked about that target audience, that who. Two, you talked about operationalizing the delivery of the service. Third, the legal, as a lawyer, right, to come to me first as the legal, but you're right. You did your legal, your entity, your certifications if you're a minority, your fourth, your creativity, the delivery of the service, and then the fifth about how to make those build repeatable solutions. Excellent points and nuggets for the folks who are tuning in. Destiny, I know. Don't worry. I'm gonna share my notes with you, Destiny. Okay, what would be your five? You don't have to pick five. If it's 4 or 3, what are your folks who are wondering, how do I start? And we have a number of young people. I can see the attendees, and we have over half of the folks on here are young people like yourself. So what can you tell them? Service industry, 5 things, 3 things, 4 things that you say pivotal to starting their business.
What's what was so great about hearing those 5 just before was that I feel like a lot of them I did without really knowing what I was doing. Like, sure. Sometimes you just you have to sit down and think about it. And that's what I would say would be my main thing, would be sitting down and just thinking the steps out and reaching out to your network. That is the biggest thing that I think a young person can do that gets them ahead, is reaching out to people that have done it before and can give you the steps and guidance to say, well, for example, my mom, she has experience preparing taxes. So she let me know, you want to make sure that before you're charging people that you get your legal stuff, that you get incorporated, and that you have some legal backing, because you're going to need it, especially as a young person. That's so important. You're going to be in conversation with adults, and you want to make sure that you have that legal backing, because it's sad to say sometimes, but you do, as a young person, sometimes get taken advantage of because you're younger. And so learning how to advocate for yourself young is it's priceless. And I'm still learning. But really what one of my mentors said to me that really stuck with me about a year ago was finding out what you do, and then what other things can you do, not as well, but still learn how to do, and use all those skills to work with them, with each other. I relied so much on my network when it came to the virtual events. I went to Baltimore School for the Arts, so I had a plethora of artists to choose from when I had live performances, reaching out to people through my scholarship network to say, well, would you be interested in being a guest speaker? Having that mindset, I think, is one of the biggest barriers that stops someone from being able to do whatever it is that they want to achieve, is thinking that they can't. I know personally, I would have never picked up a camera if I hadn't seen people my age doing it. When I was going for an acting role for CSX, if I hadn't seen people my age, I would have never asked. And then I would have never, even then I was still intimidated because I just thought it wasn't my place. Now I've traveled to South Africa, which was my first plane ride, and filmed and created these films and all this just because of that first step. And if you can't take that first step, then the 1000th one will never come. And so just really taking that leap and relying on people in your network, I would say, are the only things that I could add from.
Excellent job, Shelonda. Did I tell you we're gonna be working for her?
Oh yeah, she's on water.
I'm doing the mail. You gonna do something else?
I got reception.
All right. I'm doing the mail. So first of all, a couple of gems you just dropped, Destiny. One, sitting down, making that plan, really thinking through. Second, I think you talked about reaching out to your network and really relying upon that. That is so critical, and I think that's something I know folks are taking down. Third, the legal. Lawyers will never go out of business because you always need us. Making sure you're taking care of your legal and risk and making sure you're doing that. Fourth, getting out of your comfort zone and stretching, taking the leap. And then I think fourth, what you talked about, and I call this I call this because I read it in a book, but your zone of genius. What do you do well that no one else can do? And then what are the things that you really should not be doing because it's not your zone of genius, right? And so figuring out the actors and the other, your zone of genius is acting, but figuring out, are there other tasks that you can give off so you can do your work? That is amazing. Okay, so we're going to get to, both of you have been on a tremendous journey and have done phenomenal things. What thus far has been your greatest accomplishment, or would you say has been one of your greatest accomplishments? I'm always surprised by the answer I get to this. So I'm going to start with Shelonda, and then Destiny. I give you more time because Shelonda should have this all head. And then I'm going to give you more time because I'm going to come back to the hard questions with you again. So Shelonda, what would you say?
It's funny that you say that. I think in business, remaining in business for 20 years is probably one of the things that I would say is the greatest accomplishment. Yeah. If you look at the rate that small and minority businesses fail, typically within the first year, 5 years, 7 years, for us to have lasted 20 years is amazing to me. And I think along the way, when I think about the impact that that's had on families, our employees and team members, the fact
how many employees? I mean, I've seen you do a production.
It has, and it's ebbs and flows. And so on our productions, you'll probably have hundreds on a consistent basis. We'll probably have anywhere from 15 to 20 some, depending on what it is. And the great part about how our team works, especially now in COVID, because this is where you see how people are really working.
Yes.
You can see the segmented armies that are out doing things with different team members. And for so long, I was really the face of all of that. And so if you had asked somebody before, Graybo was one person, right? They were like, oh, I know Shelonda if you said Graybo. And what's happened now in the transition is it's just been an amazing, journey for our team to be out there and to start, doing some things a lot differently.
Yeah, no, absolutely. How about you, Destiny? You have miles to go before you sleep and and mountains to climb. So what would you say has been your greatest accomplishment thus far?
I think that my greatest accomplishment so far, just looking back, is just being in a place so young that I'm able to now create opportunities for other people. That's something that's really important with a lot of the mentorship networks and just scholarship organizations, is that you give back. But I never expected that I would be able to start that so early. But for when I was the Baltimore Ravens scholar, I made my video for the celebration that the NFL rolled out, and I included one of my friends who's kind of like a blooming filmmaker. Doesn't really have a lot of big credits, but now one of his first credits is that he made an NFL video. And even just little things like that, when I'm able to like just help somebody out or get them ahead, it just really makes me feel like I'm making a difference, because those are the things that I need to take to really make a change in the industry, especially outside of virtual events, the filmmaking industry. And just the way that Michelle was saying that she was an electrical engineer, there's a lot of industries where there's just not a lot of diverse representation. And so if there's a way that I can help other people that historically wouldn't be in those positions, like I think that is like the best accomplishment that I can really achieve, and just work.
No, that's a blessing that you can be a blessing.
Yeah, exactly.
On the cloud, and that is phenomenal. And I think a nugget that you brought out, and I sort of titled this "When Your Heroes Are Your Friends." When you all can see everybody shining together, which is what you just talked about, getting your friend, he getting the NFL credit. Who knows? Please give him my information as well. I would like to work for him as well. Okay, so why don't we talk about, we know that every day doesn't shine for entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs face challenges. And so we do like to get real about what are the challenges and how you overcame them. But what was one of the biggest challenges that you face in your industry or in your work, and how are you addressing it or overcoming it? Destiny, if you want, I can go to Shelonda or go to you first.
I'll still say.
All right, Shelonda.
Okay, she wants the pepper to go first. She wants.
I know the pepper.
So maybe I'll be seasonal.
Yeah, seasonal. That's right. Seasoned entrepreneur.
No, I'm gonna tell you one of the biggest challenges, and it's one of those things that I wish we had done differently. Cash flow for small and minority businesses is a huge challenge, and it's different now. The advent of social media, which shows you how old I am, but it does offer more opportunities, I think, for marketing than we had back in the day. And so we were trying to figure out how to market, how to get our message out there, how to tell our story. And I wished I had done some things differently, or we had, around getting cash flow early.
Yeah.
Had we done that? I mean, because we did sort of incremental growth in our company. We would get a project, and based on that project, you could hire one person or bring on a consultant, and it was in there. But when you think about it, I mean, we talk about one of our clients being Under Armour, and thinking about the longevity of our company. We started not that far after them, right? But one of the things that I think they did differently in having an infusion of cash and leveraging their networks and doing some things is they could get that sort of exponential growth that came along with that. You can then hire the right people to help you grow at, definitely an increased rate. And for us, it's been just a slower sort of trek along that. Still thankful for the journey, but that was a challenge, and one of those things that if I could do it all over again, we would absolutely make sure that we were capitalized first.
Yeah. That's a good point. I'm gonna come back to that because I want to delve into that a little bit because we also have, hopefully, some folks from the banking industry on here. We have some folks from the public sector, the private sector, and so we really want to think about, like, what's the policy changes shifts we could see from just what you're talking about. Destiny, can you the challenges? Seems like the sun shines on you a lot, Destiny, but I know that you've had some challenges in growing your business as an entrepreneur. So can you talk a little bit about that and how you confront it?
Yes, and just one thing, being incredibly transparent. I always want to be transparent. It's definitely not always sunshine.
I know.
Really, that's one thing that I would say would be the biggest challenge is being intentional about how you grow the business.
Yeah.
Take a step and then not being able to back it up and keep going in a positive direction. I think one of the most challenging things building Indulgent Interludes currently was that I was still figuring out my housing for the next term at NYU. I was still living in COVID. I was still living in, the times that we're living in right now. So there was so much going on that really, you don't really see it as like a direct barrier, but a lot of these things go into, well, this is the reason why I can't sit down and make that promotional video that I want to, have as, what I can send out to clients and things like that. And so I think I've been really blessed in that opportunities to show off, Indulgent Interludes' abilities has just kind of been dropping in my lap, with different corporate occasions and also individual events. But I think that is my biggest challenge currently, is just being really intentional about my growth and not just saying, oh, I'm going to do corporate events because that was what was offered, but really saying I have an audience. This is going to market to that audience and how I'm going to continue going.
Excellent. I mean, that's, both of you, one, talked about intentional growth. You talked about the cash flow. Cash flow comes in, I think, 3 different ways: capital, customers, and contracts, right? So you talk about that. Let me plug something because we're getting a lot of chat, a lot of questions on Zoom, a lot of questions on Facebook. But let me also tell people who are tuning in on the phone that you can also participate by texting your questions to 22333 and type JHUWL in the message, and we will get your questions to Destiny and Shelonda. Before I turn over to this long list of questions we are receiving in, let me ask a couple of questions. First to Destiny and then Shelonda. Destiny, what's your vision for Indulgent Interludes and Leilani's lens? Like, what are you thinking about in terms of the growth and the vision for those companies?
Yeah, so I'm really lucky that I have a small group of like-minded young people who have that entrepreneurial spirit. So we've been really thinking about what does Indulgent Interludes look like if we're going to be slowly transitioning to the normal or whatever that was that we had before, because I don't know if that was normal, but and we see it as Indulgent Interludes becoming an offering that any event, as an extension for any event. If you're having a wedding, but we're still in COVID times and you want to limit it to only a couple hundred people, well, we can provide that additional extension that doesn't feel like you're not still engaged in the event. So I think moving forward, becoming more of an extension to really,
wow.
One of the people I'm working with who's more on the tech side, he has the capabilities of live streaming events. So now Indulgent Interludes can now become the service that comes to your event. We stream it and we also facilitate Zoom or whatever platform, because that's also what we're looking into. Some other platforms that offer some things that Zoom doesn't. So I've been looking into a lot of tech guides and doing just research on what are the best platforms, so that even though I'm moving into this kind of new field, that we're still kind of on the new cutting edge of technology and best platforms, because it's definitely growing very quickly and evolving very fast. So,
wow. Whew. Yeah, it's going to be an empire. It's not just a business. It's about to be, it's something different. Shelonda, what, and we know that Graybo you're the founder. So can you tell us about what the folks at Graybo are doing with Graybo, and also talk to us about Downtown Partnership, because I think your leadership there, I was so excited. I probably blasted it on every social
Thank you.
I can find, because when you win and when you lead, we all win. So talk a little bit about both the business as well as but your new endeavor of Downtown Partnership. Love to hear about it.
No, and thank you. I think for Graybo, we need to be scared because Destiny is coming. We might as well just figure out how she buys us out. That's what I'm putting that on the table right here, because from that perspective, I think similarly, when COVID happened, I think to our company, part of what we started to think about was what we needed to do to shift and pivot, and what our future looks like with that. Totally blessed in the sense that, similar to what Destiny was talking about, we have a team of creatives and engineers and artists who literally have helped our clients transition to create online experiences, not just with Zoom, but where you could at least as close to feel like you could, be in there, you could be there. And so we've been able to do that. But when you talk about the future of us, our motto at Graybo is the art of making people look, listen, and believe. And the thought is, no matter what platform, whether it's a movie, it's a commercial, it's a signature event, the thought is that we are integrating and will help the clients tell those stories. And so we look forward to continuing to do that, but doing it and evolving with whatever this new normal looks like. So they've been rocking and rolling over there. The transition, though, to Downtown Partnership was a little bit different, because it wasn't as if I was like, oh, let me find something new. I love Graybo. I love what was happening there. But it's interesting. I came into Downtown. I was the chair of the board for Downtown Partnership, and we were in the process of doing a search for a new president. And because of COVID happened, we had to pause our search. And at that point, I started serving as the interim president of Downtown Partnership. And Alicia, when I tell you, there's been no other point in time where you could see your purpose, your passion, your work, your life, and all of those efforts come into full circle, and to see how I could truly make an impact for a city that I couldn't love anymore. And all of those stars aligned. And although we had the pandemic, and then you layered on top of it the racial injustice that we were seeing what I saw was the ability to truly make a difference there. And I mean, a Downtown Partnership, an amazing team of people who were already out doing the work. And now we could amplify, those messages and do some things to help connect the dots in ways that are needed for our community right now. And so for Downtown Partnership, just like with Grabo, we're on this upward trajectory of doing more, doing better, giving back, and, kicking butt and taking names.
Now that you gave me chills. I almost weep just now when you were talking about, I know you love this city with every part of your body. Destiny, she is one of our sisters of this city. She loves this city. I love Baltimore, and I feel the same way about Hopkins. I feel really blessed to be here.
Wonderful.
And to get to do this work. Let's get to some questions. We have a couple. Oh, we have a lot. I don't know.
Remember, Destiny, hard questions.
Right, we're going to get to these questions because I'm going to conduct myself in a way that Oprah would be proud of. Got to see me on here. So why don't we get to the first question? Have you ever encountered scenarios where entrepreneurs were negatively impacted financially by not having strategic and consistent banking relationships? And how do we combat this? I think this might be for you, Shelonda. The inconsistency, and I've seen it in banking relationships, having to go here and there. Can you talk about that and what, if we had 5 big banks on here, tell their folks about that?
I think it's interesting because when you think about sort of the tribunal of what it takes to be successful in business and that sort of army that you should have, you need a banker, you need a lawyer, and you need an accountant, right? If you have those things, which typically we don't start off having, it creates some challenges. And so, to go to your first part of the question, when you don't have a consistent banking relationship, it's very hard to get a line of credit that's needed to sustain your business. And for us, throughout the years, there have been some opportunities that we had to pass up on because we did not have enough capital cash flow to sustain what we needed. We worked with one client that had a net 120, meaning they weren't going to pay us for 120 days. That meant we needed to be able to pay our team for that amount of time and carry and deliver on those things. So there have been some things that because we did not have those consistent relationships, the banks didn't really understand our business in that, then, we couldn't extend ourselves to then do some projects that probably would have helped leapfrog us faster, further faster.
Yeah. And it's not till you get into the procurement space and, you're on the other side, but also you have empathy for those who are entrepreneurs. I was a lawyer, owner, partner in a law firm. A net 120 will kill you.
Yeah.
A net 60 will kill you.
Yeah.
Net 30 sometimes not even nice.
Who are you telling? Because now a lot of my vendors are like, can you pay me Cash App right now? So.
Yes. So that is great. Let me get to this question. Destiny, someone asked, what surprised you most about being an entrepreneur? So you've been employed and entrepreneur. So what's been one of the big surprises that you've had?
Maybe I would say the biggest difference is probably the workflow. I think that it still has to come from my own mindset, but I think that when I'm working wide angle or I'm working on a project, I have a very clear start and end goal. I think that when it comes to entrepreneurship, that's incredibly fluid. When it comes to even whatever service or product you're offering, it's really allowing for that space for it to be fluid and for you to have a plan and set out, have a goal, but also figuring out how to schedule it when you're your own boss. I think is one of the trickiest things. It's because you still want to have those deadlines. You still want to put that fire underneath yourself, but it gets tricky sometimes when you don't have someone or a team of people who are relying upon you or dependent upon you for some other deadline. It's like you're creating them. So I think that would be a surprise.
Yeah, the no deadlines, not good for, lawyers love deadlines. No, we don't. So we have a question, and this one's for you, Shelonda. We have an individual who's a personal trainer, speaker, author, coach, athlete. You have 5 jobs. That is amazing. And they operate their business. They want to understand, how do they connect with government? You talked about your first contract being with what's now the Department of Commerce. How could they think about working to bring messages of health and wellness to folks? And are there, did you go about getting grants or getting contracts to present that need? Can you go through that a little bit?
Right. So two separate thoughts, and congratulations to that person with 5 jobs.
I know. I work for you too.
Right now with kudos to them. I can tell you that there are some steps, especially within the city, some resources to help people get connected in, and they may have already gone, but I just want to make sure that within the mayor's office, I don't know if people know Paul Taylor, but he runs the mayor's office of small women in business owned development or something.
They're a sponsor of this series.
Okay, so perfect.
I'll give them their thanks at the end. But
okay.
Partner, yes.
They are phenomenal for starting off, along with so I know they have the SBRC, the Small Business Resource Center, and the Small Business Development Center. Both of those entities do such a great job in sort of the baseline, making sure everything is done. And what they also help do, a lot of things with government is, you said it earlier, at least, you got to figure out how they procure and what they procure. Some things like fitness and some of those things, I have not seen them in the past on a lot of their sort of general, they're going to put out an RFP for that. But I can tell you, in some of the trainers and some people that we worked with, I know Monty does it, Monty Sanders Patrice from, her husband from that. When you go through departments, though, like the police department, or you look at entities where companies are focusing on wellness and stuff like that, that creates opportunities for fitness and some of those other things. So part of it is getting connected through the SBDC and SBRC first to understand where. The other part is, and I say this all the time, it's been a part of sort of the secret sauce, I think, of success. If you go there, for me, I literally have a pad and I have to get 100 no's, right? I have to get in a week, a month, some defined time period, 100 no's. To get to know 100 times means you're asking a lot. What any of those type business is not going to come easy. You literally have to beat down doors, knock down. And I know people don't want to hear that all the time, but you literally have to be intentional about doing the ask across the board, getting on there. And so for that person, I would say start with Paul and them, and then like knock down these doors.
It is excellent. Excellent. Let me ask this question. This is one almost made me tear up when I saw this question. This person is asking this question from a basic place. And first of all, I'm not going to say your name, but I just want to say we'll be praying for you and your husband and your business and you starting. So her husband is preparing to start his own trucking company and preparing to purchase his first truck. This is for both of you. And she's studying her exams in the hope of launching a tax service business. How can you stay focused on your goals? Also stay focused on that broad network of family and community that you are a part of. Destiny, can you talk about like how you are focusing on goals that are personal and professional and keeping it all harmonized together?
I think it's hard. I mean, I think we're always going to still be learning how to do that successfully. And that was something that I had to really think about more recently when we transitioned to virtual, but really just in the past couple of years on how do I want to work in the future? And do I want to be the person who's the workaholic, or do I want to start having that mindset now that there has to be time for personal life and personal goals as well as professional goals? But I think outside that, which may seem kind of contradictory, is that my family is like my best support system. So many times I'll reach out to my mom or my boyfriend, who's also working on, he's developing a software. He's a Stern student at the School of Business in NYU, and he's working on a software to create interactive learning platform for students. And so finding people like that, where you can like be talking at 11 o'clock and be like, oh my God, I'm so frustrated about this. And they can share that frustration, and you guys can work things. Having someone play your ideas off of, I think, is so beneficial. So it's great that you have like a support system, and your husband is starting something up at the same time that you're working on something, because I think you can really having that partner is really useful.
You're so wise. You're like you've been here a while. Not 20. Shelonda,
she really is. She said it all. I think for us, so my husband is a part of Gravo as well. We've expanded the company, and so I think whenever you can have integrate the family into the business, I think it's helpful. And you do it where everybody still has, they have their sort of their areas and their space. And I think that part is good. It also allows for growth together. Our kids, literally, if you see an event, you will see our kids working the event. And it started off, we used to feel like, oh my God, I don't want this business to feel mom and pop, where you see the kids and everybody working. I think it's the balance of that. On the flip side, though, I mean, we have like these conversations where for some of them, I can't wait until they're at an age that we could hire them full time, because they've grown up in it so much that they know and understand the culture of the business. So I think the one part I
will hire Sydney in the
I
will hire her today.
But it's so funny, because I saw that even from people who we modeled early on that will bring their children. And you're like, why are they bringing their children? So for that exposure. But the other part that I would say to that person as they do it, even when the businesses aren't the same, I think having a thought partner and allowing and adding the input and insights into each other's businesses helps tremendously. Even if you're not in the same company, sometimes there are these gems that you get from talking to somebody who's just willing to listen in that way. And so I would just encourage them to, kind of go in that way and make sure that they're supporting one another in that. Because starting at the same time and doing that it's tough. And wherever there are financial challenges, it adds a whole different layer of challenges onto relationships.
Let me ask you this. This has come up a couple of times. One we've gotten this question. What has been your pivot during COVID? And Destiny, you touched on this a little bit, but could you talk about how have you even envisioned what you're going to do if we remain in the pandemic for much longer than we probably anticipated? I think we all thought outside was going to open by now.
Yes.
Not opening. And yes. So what would you say, how have you thought about pivoting and changing your business?
Yeah, this is something that moving forward, my biggest issue that I'm tackling right now is just the ability to collaborate virtually, because that has been one of the, I think I've learned so much on what goes well and what goes terribly wrong with that when it comes to virtual. But I think that there's a lot of platforms. There's Trello and Miro and Slack, there's a lot of software that makes it, makes workflow really not too difficult to manage when you're in different places. So I think that for Indulgent Interludes moving forward, it's going to be really about still feeling like we're in the same room when we're trying to tackle an issue, and being able to delegate tasks and get things done, because that's something I had to realize. I can't do everything. No matter how much I want this to be my baby and I have to do everything, I can't, and I have to let other people, kind of rise up and manage things. And so how do you do that successfully? And how do you have checkpoints in place and, backup plans for when virtual events go wrong, as they do always, and, different things like that.
Alicia, she's been here before.
I know she's been here a while. She's been here a while.
She has been here.
She is not. She is.
I promise you,
she's telling us she is. I'm telling
every point that I wanted to say, she said literally. She hit the nail on the head.
Yes. Let me ask you this, and one, I'm going to answer this question because it came in from Poll Anywhere. Where have you ever encountered people who don't want to help you and not willing to share or make connections? And I think all of us have unfortunately encountered those folks. And I will say that there are fewer of them than there are folks who are willing to help. And the successful folks are willing to share their networks and are willing to share their connections because they know that it all comes back around. Let me get to this question. We're cutting a lot of questions. We are not going to get through all these. This was not a question. Someone texted in, "You two ladies have blessed me today. Congratulations and continued success to you, Black Girl Magic." So I that both of you. We're getting a lot of those in here. So it's not as bad as I thought they were. This is a great one. What strategies, and both of you talked about your teams.
Yep.
What strategies have you used to acquire talent and build your?
I can say we've had, positives and negatives like any organization around how you build teams. Early on, I think we used probably the wrong strategy, which was just the relationship strategy. And so we only hired within the circle that we knew. Yeah. And with that, that was our acquiring phase of it. Later on, I think we started to do things a little bit more strategic around how we were not only hiring, but the second part of that, which is building the team. Mm-hmm. There's this saying that talks about if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll grow up thinking it's dumb, or some saying like that. But in essence, part of what we started to learn is although we may have had good people, they may not have been in the right positions or helping us grow in the way that we have. And so we started really focusing on between looking at how we assess our team better, how we measure, how we set goals together for our team, starting out with, what is it that they want to do, and aligning that better with where the company was. So we didn't have people feeling like they're coming in this mundane thing. Let me check this box, right? Our measures became more around impact and outcome than they were, did you get here at 8:00 in the morning and leave at 7:00 at night? And so a lot of it has evolved from those type strategies and also from listening, right? I think we shifted to where it's not this top down, this is what you need to do. It's here's where we are and here's the challenge. Let's work together and figure out how we get there. And I think in doing that, we've allowed the team members have developed and I think flourished to help us grow further together.
Yeah. Anything to add, Destiny?
I would just agree with all of that. I always start out, and this is something I learned from working in a larger team, always starting with why are you doing this, or what are you passionate about this, and making sure that you all are on the same idea or on the same wavelength about that, because I think that it makes it so much easier to be accountable for people, or to emphasize accountability in the future. If you say, you said that you were dedicated to this, so now you got to show me, especially working with young people. I think what I've learned is I have I'm only depending on my relationships really of the people my network that I've grown, but giving people leadership in different ways, it depends on the person. Some people are ready, I just haven't had the experience and are ready. Some people have had the experience, but not in the right aspect or so it's just about finding the fit for what everyone does best and how they can contribute, and not giving someone something just because nobody else will do it, and kind of falling on yourself to be like, okay, well, I'll pick up the slack for other people until they, like you were saying, grow into the person that they need to be to do the job the best way.
Let me just say, okay. I think we are all good. You're getting such nice statements. Let me close on this last statement, and I want you both to sort of take this to heart, because I always think you got to uplift a woman every day. If you do that every day, you know, a woman, a man, a child, we're a little better. Someone wrote, I just want to say thank you for being leaders and living examples of powerful entrepreneur Black women. So I want to leave with that. Shelonda and Destiny, you are both amazing, amazing entrepreneurs. You are living why entrepreneurship matters in real time. And it has been a pleasure to have you here today and to showcase you. I want to make sure, so we have gotten this question a couple of times, how can people be in contact with you? So Destiny, you want to give us your website, your Instagram handle, so people can follow you?
Yes, so it's leilanisLens.com, which is LEILANIS lens, LENS.com, or on Instagram it's at DLEILANI Brown. So D Leilani Brown.
Excellent. And Shelonda?
I have quite a few. No. So for Graybo, the website is graybo.com, GREIBO.com. Downtown Partnership is godowntownbaltimore.com. So those are both easy. And then they can just get me on all of the social channels at Shelonda Stokes, at SHELONDASTOKES.
Okay, great. Again, thank you, both of you. Let me give a couple of announcements, and then I'm going to thank all of our community partners and our sponsors. First, Saturday, we will be having an amazing trivia party celebrating our young people who got into college. And we also are inviting our adults who want to mentor these young people who have gotten into college to join us. That's at 6 o'clock. The party is called They Got In. Our Baltimore City grads are heading to college trivia night. There are so many. We're doing that in partnership with Councilman James Torrance, as well as I Am Ready. I Am Ready is putting on the event, Melissa Hippolyte. That will be an amazing event that's sponsored by Johns Hopkins University in Medicine. And young people can win computers, and everybody gets a snack pack from UTS, and you can get a dinner, and a young person's going to win their books for next semester. So come, it is free for the kids, and we are going to be fundraising for these care packages so our kids know that they love us, that we love them, and have something to go off with college with. Next Thursday at 1 o'clock, come back for Entrepreneurship Matters. We are going to have two amazing entrepreneurs. This is a fun one. We're talking about real estate this time. We have Cedric Bobo, who is the founder, owner of Project Destin. You want to hear this story. And Bree Jones, a young woman, entrepreneur, real estate developer of Parity Homes. And so you do not want to miss that. Please follow us on JH Connects. So it's at JH Connects on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We love to get your feedback. So please reach out to us at jhconnects@jhu.edu. I want to thank our partners, Johns Hopkins University, Johns Hopkins Health System, Hopkins Local, the Mayor's Office of Small, Minority, and Women-Owned Business, and the Warnock Foundation. So thank you all. Thank you, Shelonda and Destiny. Hope everyone has a great day, and I hope you all were inspired by this edition of Entrepreneurship Matters.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.